Well, good morning. It is January the 12th, 2026, and straight from the Highly Caffeinated Studio, this is According to Willie B., and I am your host, and there's nothing you can do about it. No, just kidding. So, today, I want to take you into the middle of a fight. Yes, a fight. I want to take you right up in the middle of a fight. And yes, by the time we get through this program, you will know the flavor of the Kool-Aid and you will be up in the middle of it. And I'm talking about a food fight. So there is actually a lot of food fights across our globe. Now, I'm not talking about taking a handful of spaghetti and throwing it across the room. No, that's not what I'm talking about. So put down the plate of pasta and listen for a minute. This food fight is about who has the rights to say, hey, I created that dish, or I was the first one to discover this, and it was this chef or this country or that country is where it originated. And that's the kind of food fight we're going to talk about today. And I've got 11 different items that we're going to talk about that are major global right to own the rights to own. Hey, I'm the one that did that. For my part, in all honesty, I don't care who invented bacon. Just cook it and give it to me. That's all I'm going to say. And there will be no fight. However, if you try to ration the amount of bacon I get, then there's going to be a food fight. And no, I'm not throwing bacon. But let's get into this because I found this really interesting. And I had given this idea the other day. I was talking to a friend of mine, and we were talking about different things. He's like, well, that was invented over here. And I'm like, no, that was actually this. And they're like, no. So I started researching it, and I found out that is really common across the globe of who has the rights to what. And some of these dishes you may or may have never had the opportunity to try. There are a few of them that I have not and will not. And we'll get to that one. You'll see why I saved it for one of the last. But to me, I don't care who invented it. I get that there is monetary reasons behind some of them where, hey, we could tout ourselves as we're the country that we're the brains behind this dish, So I can understand that. I really can when it comes to the monetary side of it. But just as far as not necessarily bragging rights, but just to say, hey, we were the first ones. I really don't get that. And I'm going to give you an analogy of why it doesn't matter. I'm going to give you 3 choices. If you were going to fly somewhere tomorrow, and I gave you 3 choices to fly on, you can fly with, let's say, Southwest. You could fly with Spirit Airlines, or you could fly with the Wright brothers. I mean, I'm gonna pick Southwest. I think it's going to be a little bit smoother process than, first of all, the first flight, and then the next airline being Spirit, getting the first flight right. And then Southwest, that's nothing against Spirit. It's just not my favorite airline. But there's a lot of people that travel it. So, but anyway, back to the food fight. That's what we're here for. So the first item that comes up on the list is called pavlova. Have you ever heard of this? I have actually had this dessert, and and I've only had it one time. But it was truly amazing. And it was at a restaurant in Houston. I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but they had a lot of really off-the-wall different ethnic dishes. And so they had this dish, and I thought, that's got to be good. So the name pavlova comes from a ballerina, a Russian ballerina. Now, it's funny that it's named after a Russian ballerina, but the fight is between Australia and New Zealand. Now, I'm going to explain to you why that makes a difference. The Australian argument states that in 1935, a man named Bert created pavlova at the Esplanade Hotel in Perth. But the Oxford English Dictionary gives the earliest account of the origins of the words, notes that a published pavlova recipe first appeared in a book from New Zealand. So, could it be possible that New Zealand created the recipe, but then Australia stepped in and cooked it? I don't know. But let me tell you what this dessert is. Have you ever had meringue cookies? Now, they're when they first come out of the oven is my favorite because they're still a little bit soft and they're really sweet. And they have, if most people will put a good bit of vanilla, and so that vanilla flavor really comes out in that vanilla aroma. And that's really what came out in the pavlova, is that there was this vanilla essence, like this fresh vanilla bean essence coming out of the meringue, and it's not crispy. It's kind of I don't want to say soft, but it has a certain pliableness to it, right? And then it has like this fresh cream, like a sweet cream layered into that. And then there's fresh fruit, usually strawberries, kiwis, berries, etc., layered on top of that. And it is absolutely one of the most lighthearted dishes, but it's because it's sweet. It is really, really filling, but it is off the chain good. So if you ever get a chance somewhere and you see pavlova on the menu as a dessert, definitely try that dessert, because I promise you, you will not forget it. So who made it first? Australia, New Zealand? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. When you talk back in the days of 1935, when they first claimed to have made it, we didn't have social media then, so he wasn't able to post it on Facebook after he made it. So, who's to say that he made it? And I'm going to give you a little tidbit of information to kind of keep in the back of your mind here. Have you ever eaten something somewhere, whether at a restaurant or somebody's house or something, and there's like, oh, wow, this is really good. I've never had this before, but I have a friend who makes something similar to this, but they don't put this in or put that in or whatever. And I think sometimes in these food fights, that may have been what happened. Was you have one country over here and they made something, and maybe they were inspired by this same Russian ballerina. And then you have another country, they were inspired and they made this same dish, but maybe it was a little bit different. So then it became, hey, no, we created that first, but maybe there were some subtle differences there. I don't know. Either way, you got to try that dessert, because I promise you it's to die for. Okay. The next item up, this one, I have heard so many different places that have claimed basically the rights to being the first to make this, and that is a simple ice cream sundae. Now, I have been, in our travels, I have been to a lot of old school soda shops, right? Soda Jerks, etc. These old country stores, Five and Dime. If you remember the old drugstores that had the Soda Jerks. So there's a lot of those that I have traveled to, and they'll have a sign up, hey, this is where the ice cream sundae originated. Hey, this is where. There's actually one story, and it's between Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and Ithaca, New York. Now, both of them claimed that they were the absolute first to do it. So, Two Rivers, Wisconsin claims that in 1881, A patron of a soda shop owned by Edward Berners requested that his ice cream be drizzled with chocolate sauce. I guess back in 1881, I guess that could be considered an invention, but I get bacon with chocolate sauce on it. So did I invent that? I don't know. So this dish was only served on Sundays because of the blue law. So that's why they claim that they changed the name from Sunday, Sunday, to Sundae for the Sunday. And that's their story of how it became. Now, when you start talking about that it was two high school students pointing out from New York that Berners would have been in his mid to late teens in 1881, and it seemed unlikely that he would have a soda shop or anything else. So, I kind of get that, but, in 1881, none of us were here. So I think anything probably goes. It very well could have been that it was a teenager, let's say 16, 17, 18 years old, that owned a soda shop back then. We didn't have all the laws and the rules and the city ordinances and stuff. So it was very possible, I think, in 1881 when you start thinking about it that way. It's been a big rivalry between those two for all these years, and so I don't know which one actually created it. You can research this to the Sundays, if you will, but I can promise you, you're going to just get deeper into the weeds on it, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who created the ice cream sundae. I'm just glad they did. So, to Two Rivers, Wisconsin, and to New York, I thank you. And my stomach thanks you. All right, so this next item. So this is, I've had this, and it's really not my favorite. And I have heard people talk about deep dish pizza and like in Chicago, right? In the Windy City. I've had deep dish pizza, not in Chicago, so maybe I don't know, but because I can tell you, like a Philly cheesesteak. If you haven't been to Philly in Philadelphia and had a cheesesteak, yeah, you haven't had one. You've had a lookalike or an imposter, and it could be the same thing on deep dish pizza. I'm just not a fan. I like thin and crispy crust. I like a thick crust. I even like a pan crust. But the whole deep dish Chicago style deep dish pizza, it kind of looks like they put lasagna in a pie shell. So there's that. But let's get into this. So there was actually two chefs that are battling this out. And then one went to work for the other one. So, there's that. So the main story is that the deep dish pizza was invented at Pizzeria Uno in 1943 by a man named, these word salads today, man, by a man named Ike Sewell. But another version of the story states that Rudy Malnati, he even sounds Italian, so I'm going to kind of go with that guy because he sounds Italian. I'm sorry, Ike Sewell, you sound like you should be inventing, I don't know, pizza, maybe paper cups or something. But Rudy Malnati, hey, that guy sounds Italian. I'm thinking he probably is the one that did it. But anyway, he would go on to be a chef for Pizzeria Uno that created the recipe, but Malnati's son would also work at Pizzeria Uno, would go on to open Lou Malnati's Pizzeria. I really feel like this one was probably a joint venture, and they're now trying to battle it out to see who's going to have the ownership rights of I created it first, or et cetera, et cetera. If they were the ones that invented pizza, I would say thank you. But because it's the deep dish Chicago style pizza, I'm going to say, hey, I'm sure there are people out there that really appreciate that. For me, It's just not my favorite thing. Now, if you stuck it in front of me, would I eat it? Well, the answer is yes, especially if it had bacon on it. You know what I mean? So let's go on. So this next one. So I'm not saying that I do not eat salad. I'm not saying that at all. I am a meat and taters guy, but I will eat a salad, especially if it's a big salad bar. Now, I love a big salad bar because I can just throw so much stuff on a salad. I really don't think it is a salad anymore. It becomes this, I don't know, this just combination of the garden and the back of the kitchen all in one. I don't know, but I love a good salad bar. So then, and one of my favorite ingredients on a salad, pineapple. Don't put it on pizza, but I do. And so now you know where my thought lies on that one. I'm sorry if you are a fan, if you are a team pineapple on pizza, I am sorry. I cannot agree with that. But now pineapple on a salad all day long. All right, so let's not get off into that food fight. So the origin of the Cobb salad is not as hotly disputed in real life. Now, why is that? Because it's salad. That's just my take on that. But there was a chef that Robert Cobb, owner of the Brown Derby, entered the Hollywood restaurant late one night in 1937. See, everything happened way back then. Nobody fights over it anymore. We just eat it now. But he was really hungry and decided to toss whatever was in the kitchen into a salad. Okay. How many of us are guilty of that? We're hungry. We go down to the kitchen and we make a sandwich, and whatever's in the refrigerator, that's what goes on that sandwich. If we make a salad, that's what goes on that salad. If we make whatever we're making, whatever's in the refrigerator, it is a culmination of all of that. And so I don't really see that as an invention. The fact that you named it after yourself, sure, let's go with that. But, there's Cobb salad, there's Caesar salad, but at the end of the day, what's the second word? Salad. It's still a salad. So you invented a certain kind of salad. Okay, so who invented the Caesar salad? We're not going to get off into that. Why? Because it's salad, and we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about salad. It's lettuce. So let's talk about this one. Now, I actually have never had this one, but I am very curious, and I would love to know if anybody that listens to this podcast has had this, and it's called Pisco, Pisco. And, it's a South American brandy, and, it's the way it's served, because the French have a war going on of their own, because you can't call champagne if it's a sparkling wine. And this is kind of the same kind of thing because this Pisco comes out of Chile, but it's Peru versus Chile basically. And Peru had a long secure claim as being the only origin of Pisco, the brandy that was created by the grapes brought to Peru during the Spanish conquest. This is another one of those that I think there might have been a little, a team event going there, and they didn't even really know it to come up with this. But Chile has claimed that the most famous way to drink Pisco is the Pisco Sour, and was invented in a bar in Valparaiso in 1924. Again, had they had Facebook back then, we would have known who really created it, because whoever did it would have posted about it. So there is that. But I would like to try that. If it's a brandy and the drink almost looks like grapefruit juice, and it has like a foam cap on it. And so it really is kind of interesting. And I would love to try to check that out. We're actually later this year going to be on a cruise with Dan and Kelly. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe one of our destinations is in that Peru, Chile, somewhere in that region. I have to go back and look, but I think we're somewhere, and I might get my chance to check that out. And if I do, I'll let you know. But we'll talk more about that coming up in future episodes. So let's talk about this one. And this one is, It's not one of my favorite dishes. I will eat it, especially when I was in France. I had it in France, but this one is actually the fight is between a lot of different countries. It is a fight between England, between France, between Ireland, and of course America. And that is the beef Wellington. Now, there is it's almost like the ice cream sundae. It's like everybody, but I mean, let's think about it, folks. What do we truly have here? We have a chunk of meat and yum that is encased in a pastry, whether it be a bread, whether it be something different, because there's different kinds of bread. You've got the what is it? My brain is escaping me here, but it's like a pastry. It'll come back to me. We'll circle back, but let's look into this. Now, some people think it was invented by some English guy named Wellington, and that would be done and done, and we could move on. But, au contraire, the apocryphal story is that the dish was created in honor of the first Duke of Wellington after his victory over Napoleon at the 1815 Battle of Waterloo. Again, this is way, way, way a long time ago. So, who's to say? I mean, here's my thing. In 1815, they're arguing this. So how are we still arguing about this today? How have we not figured this out? But, wrapping the meat in any kind of pastry has been a European culinary constant for quite some time. And it's basically similar to beef and croûte, which is the Wellington's first confirmed reference until the 19th or in the 20th century. But then if you look further into it, they also call it filet of beef a la Wellington, refers to a dish of Irish origin. Wherever it's from, a lot of people like it. Like I said, I will eat it. I won't turn it down because it's it's bread and meat, and I'm sure there's some taters that can go with it. So, it's not one of my favorite things, but I will definitely eat my portion. And so again, it doesn't matter who invented it. Let's just eat it. Why are we still arguing? Here's another one of my non-favorites, and I really didn't want to include this one, but I felt compelled. So this one is an argument between the United States and the United Kingdom. Now, this is not where I thought this argument would lie, but I did my research, and here's what I found out. The various origins of this dish can't even agree on whether it's chicken a la king, K-I-N-G, or chicken a la Keene, K-E-E-N-E. And those versions aren't even named after a king or a queen, there was one in hotel in London claims to have created the dish back in 1881 by James Robert Keene. He was a stockbroker. But then there was also the Delmonico in New York that has claimed to create the dish in the 1880s. Do you see the resemblance there? 1881 and in the 1880s. So they're in the same time period. So it's really possible that while there wasn't social media to send something on fire that everybody found out about overnight, I still feel like there was a way that news traveled. Hey, this chef did this dish, and here's what he made, and it was da-da-da. And so then somebody says, oh, that sounds really good. And so then they make their version of it, and then they're both claiming that they're creed to the prize. And I think that's where some of the debate comes in, is like, maybe they both created a similar version. And that's what I think happened in a lot of this food fights. Okay. That's just my take on it. But, this is an opinionated podcast. So there's that. All right. Moving right along because we're starting to run out of time. and I try not to make these podcasts go longer than 30 minutes. It's the perfect length to listen to on the way to work. All right. And if you have a shorter drive to work than that, then I applaud you. This one is the limoncello. Now, it is, if you're not familiar, if you've never had a limoncello martini, that there's an ingredient in that limoncello that is a limoncello liqueur. So this one actually is a 3-part food fight. It is Sorrento versus Capri versus Amalfi. Now, they all claim that their grandparents and grandmothers and their ancestors are the ones that created this. But here's the problem. The story of limoncello is as old as the cultivation of lemon trees. So I think that everybody just needs to come up with their own version and say, hey, this is our version. We came up with this first. And again, we don't really care who came up with it, because limoncello is actually marketed under a lot of different brands. So, and everybody's making their monetary trophies off of it. So I really don't understand the argument on that one, because if you think about it, Sorrento, Capri, and Amalfi, all those are areas where it really could have come from if you do the research. So to me, hey, limoncello, it's an Italian thing. So it came from Italy. Don't really want to argue about what part, but there is that. So this one is kind of weird. I've never had this one, but now I'm really curious that I want to have it. And this is New York City versus Paris. If that's not two opposite ends of the spectrum, I don't know what is. But the name of this drink is called Egg Cream, and there's no eggs in it. So, but there's an interesting theory of why it's called Egg Cream, and I want to give that to you. So one theory is that this guy named Boris, he's from Yiddish, he was a theater pioneer, requested a recreation of a recreation. Boy, these word salads today, I'm telling you. Requested a recreation of a Parisian drink, chocolate et creme, at a New York City soda fountain, and the et became egg. And then another one came from the Yiddish word echt, E-C-H-T, meaning genuine or real. So, again, tomato on that one. I think that could be probably construed that it could have came from either. It could have came from both of them, just at different periods. Again, with no Facebook to identify the true winner, I think that one's a toss-up. All right, so I got two left. This one, I told you I saved for almost the last because it's not one of my favorite things. And a lot of people do like this, and I'm just not one of them. And that is kimchi. Now, no one's disputing that Korea is kimchi's country of origin. That's not disputed at all. But however, in 1996, which is at least better than 1881 because, at least we did have internet back then, Korea argued that kimchi produced in Japan was not fermented and thus could not be called kimchi. So I guess if that, because I'm not a big kimchi fan anyway, so I really can't argue with you on that one. But I do know from what I've seen, just because I'm a foodie and I will research anything to do with food, I do know that it has to be fermented. And I think that's one of the things that I don't like about it. But, I do know that true kimchi has to be fermented. And that's just not one of my things. But, it's, again, tomato. I don't know enough about that ingredient or that thing to really be able to tell you a whole lot about it. Now, those of you that do love kimchi, I'm sure are in the background right now going, you're absolutely correct. It has to be fermented and it has to, and I hear you. I can hear you screaming in the background, and I applaud you for standing up for your food category. Because trust me, if someone started arguing with me about Texas barbecue, let me tell you, it'll get real. Because Texas barbecue through and through. So the last one I got to tell you about, and you knew I couldn't let you go without this one, and that is the origin of coffee. Now, there's no food fight here. It's a pretty cut and dried story of where it came from. But since we were talking about the history and origin of different foods, I want to tell you about coffee. Yes, I know coffee's not a food, but it is a necessity. So there's that. A lot of people don't know this, though. And after years in the coffee industry and having my own line of coffee, I can tell you it's very interesting because coffee, the origin of it is rooted in the Ethiopian legend where a goat herder named Kaldi noticed that his goats became very energetic after eating the berries from these bushes, right? So he noticed this and he thought, oh, these berries must be, it was probably almost like a tree with Red Bull growing on it. And so he gathered those berries and he tried them, and he also realized that, hey, he did have a lot more energy. He did also notice that it was very bitter. So he thought, well, there's got to be some kind of monetary, because back then they just more or less traded things. So he took it to this group of monks. And the story goes that he gave the berries to the monks and told them, try them about the energy that came from them, about what he experienced with his goats, etc. Well, they tried them and they were very bitter. So they were disgusted with them and they threw his berries into the fire. Well, what happened when they threw them into the fire? They roasted. And then there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's how you get roasted coffee. But that's where it came from. And I always think that is just the neatest story in the world to tell the origin of coffee. And I can just see the faces on them when they bit into that coffee cherry and it's like really, really bitter and throw it in the fire. Because if you've ever smelled coffee roasting, you know that is a very good smell. So I'm sure once they discovered that, it's like, oh, wait a minute, maybe we needed to cook these cherries. So anyway, there's that. I hope you enjoyed this episode about the food fight. I've enjoyed taking these different journeys. I got a lot of positive feedback from last week's episode on Journey Through the Kitchen, and I am looking into doing some research and coming up with some more of those because it was so much fun to talk about the different origins of food, because it kind of envelops our love for travel as we go. Because, if you travel, you got to eat. So that's it for this week. I definitely appreciate each and every one of you for listening. And don't forget to caffeinate and conquer. It's extremely important. Hey, and if you haven't checked out our other podcasts in the According to Willie B series, it is Real Talk with Willie B. I'm sorry. I can't even finish the podcast without a word salad. It is called Real Talk. Real Slot Talk. I am having a huge problem today, but it's okay. Real Slot Talk with Willie B. Go check it out. You can find the link on According to Willie B, www.accordingtowillieb.com. And until I see you next week right here behind this big old mic, have a great day. Bye-bye.